Do you love coffee but have no way to make it? Well, today on Dialed In DIY, we're going to make a disposable coffee maker. No matter where you are, you're just a couple of basic items away from a good cup of coffee. And the best part is, you don't need an expensive machine to get it. This technique capitalizes on many years of my experience making and using pour-over devices. The first item you need is a paper coffee cup. We're going to mark the middle of it so that we can make a hole. It's going to be a hole about the size of a drinking straw, which is a half a centimeter roughly in diameter. If you poke a hole right in the middle, just check it first, make it small. You can always make it bigger. And then expand it until you've got it the size that you need. Once you have the hole in the middle, the only thing you need now really is a coffee filter of some kind. This is a number 4 standard size filter. Obviously it's not going to fit straight down into the cup this way, so we're going to have to fold it up a little bit to make it work. If you fold the ends in, make it more like a cylinder and less like a cone, then open it back up and just put it right down inside the cup. Expand it back out, and that's pretty much going to get you where you need to be. Some of these filters are a little bit thinner, and at the end of the video I'll show you a different way to hold these in place, but this one will stay just as it is. Well, now we have a filter basket. We need a filter holder. For this, we're going to get a cardboard box. A cardboard box isn't the only way to do this, but this works really well for this approach. What we're going to do is actually put a cup inverted on top of the box and draw around the larger part of the top. Once we have that, we'll just flip the cup back over and roughly center it back in place and draw the smaller bottom size. This next part does not have to be precise. All you're going to have to do is cut out a circle in between these two lines. For this part, you can use scissors, a knife, or my preferred method, you can just grab a box cutter. Just please use caution and make sure you don't cut yourself while you're trying to remove this little circle. Your coffee maker is now complete. Just have to put the pieces together. The filter cup goes in the top. And now you just need your hot water and your coffee, and you can make yourself a nice cup of coffee. Making your coffee is easy. Just put your empty cup underneath the filter cup. Get it centered just so the cup's right underneath that hole. I like a bold cup of coffee, so I'm going to add about 5 tablespoons of ground coffee to this. You can use a little less or a little more, depends on your taste. You're just going to add your coffee right into the filter and make sure that the sides of the filter stayed open, and then you can grab your hot water and slowly start to pour a little bit in the top. Let the water sit in, and you can either use a spoon or a little straw and stir it up to make sure all the grounds got wet. Once I've started this part, I like to make sure I'm done within about 4 minutes. You don't have to be that precise, I just like the way the cup of coffee comes out at that point. Once everything's been set and you're in pretty good shape, you can start to add more hot water, but do it slow. You have plenty of time here. You just don't want to overflow that cup underneath. By looking at the top of the filter cup, you can tell when it's just about done. When you can no longer see any standing water, you've pretty much reached the point of brew. At this point, grab something so that you can slide your cup out and put underneath so that you can catch any last drips. And there you have it, a really nice cup of coffee. So you won't always be able to find a standard number 4 filter, especially if you're traveling. So what do? Well, you get your hands on whatever you can, and you'll work with that. This particular filter is a standard size filter that you'll find in restaurants and hotels. If you're at a hotel, you can actually go down to the lobby where they make the coffee every morning and ask if you could have a couple. They'll be glad to give you 1 or 2. The challenge is they're a lot bigger and a lot thinner than the other filter. So you start off by folding it in half and then fold it back again into quarters. You now have a filter that's in a cone shape again, but it's a little bit smaller than that standard number 4. Reach inside, open it up. Make sure you've got the pocket that stays sealed, any one of the outside will do, and put it inside your cup. As we said, this filter is thinner, so the challenge comes in keeping it open once you start to pour in the hot water. One option is to use a couple of paper clips on the edges, but I'm not a fan of paper clips in my coffee. So another option I've used involves another beverage container, a soda can. Actually, we're just going to make a ring that springs open to keep that filter from closing in on itself. We'll start by cutting the can. We're basically going to cut the main part of the body out of the can so that we have a flat open section of aluminum. Once we have this, we're just going to clean it up a little bit. There's some rough edges around there, so we're going to cut those off to make sure we don't snag ourselves or our coffee filter. And this, again, is not a process that needs to be extremely precise, which means you don't need to be too concerned about cutting off too much or too little. We just want to leave enough so that there's a section that can spring back open, and so that we can cut some tabs in the top to flip over the edge of the cup to hold it in place to make sure it doesn't drop inside. You can see by the way I cut this that I'm not being extremely precise about what I'm cutting. I just want to make sure that I leave 3 tabs. So I start cutting down the side and then notch it back up at the top. First piece out of the way, I move over a little bit further and cut down about the same distance. That part that's now sticking up will remain as a tab. Cut back over about midway and remove this section too. Move over a little bit further so we can complete the second tab, cut down, then cut back across. I'm not going to go all the way to the end because I want to cut this next tab out and leave a little bit more that I can remove off this last final little section. That's all the cutting we need to do. Now, just a little bit of folding and we'll be ready to make our cup of coffee. We're going to do the same thing for each of these tabs, which is basically just fold it back to the outside of the circle. You're essentially turning it into a little hook that's going to catch on the top of the cup when you set it down inside. If you overlap the ends, you make it smaller than the inside of the cup, which makes it really easy to just push down inside. That part alone is enough to keep this open, but I'm going to play with it a little bit and make sure I get these hooks over the top and in place. There you have it. This will keep the filter from closing in on itself when you put the coffee and the hot water in there, and you'll be ready to go. A great little add-on hack for this project can be found in a previous video I did called Single Serving Containers. Make your own sugar packets or creamer packets. Take them on the go, and you're ready to have it with your disposable coffee maker. Thank you for watching. Please press like and then subscribe. There will be more dialed-in DIY to come.